Hello, humans and future AI overlords. I am here today with my friend and coworker, Colby Lucas. Hey, Colby, how you doing?
Doing good. Hey, James. How are you?
Pretty good. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and this amazing business that you started.
All right. So, in addition to working with you, I have another job. It is called Creative Ascension Strategies, and we help small businesses to grow in a way that's sustainable, often using online strategies and trying to think of ways outside of the box to get them in touch with their target market. So that is Creative Ascension Strategies. You can always check us out on ca-strategies.com and on our socials, ca-strategies underscore.
That's cool. How long have you had Creative Ascension Strategies? How long has it been in business?
We actually just celebrated 1 year, and we are fully remote. We've got people in a couple areas of Tallahassee, Tampa, and somewhere in Texas as well. So we've got a growing team, and it's been a lot of fun to get to see small businesses grow over the last year. I'm looking forward to what's coming from that.
Well, that's pretty cool. So that's during the tail end of the pandemic the past year. Did that impact like the starting the business? Was that part of that make an impact on getting it up and running or?
A little bit. I think that because of the pandemic, I was starting to see more people starting small businesses, and so you know, representation really helps you see what's possible. I had never really thought that was something I would do, but I saw people, my generation, going through the same struggles that I go through to start their businesses and be successful and really support one another, and that was a huge motivator for me. It was no longer maybe I could do that, but that's not really something that people in their early 30s do. Like, it's more, other older, wiser, richer demographics get to do, not somebody like me. And so it was really cool to see that my generation was starting that. So I jumped on board because then I kind of knew that I could.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's interesting. I mean, entrepreneurship isn't limited to like any particular like group of people, but a lot of people don't feel like it's for them because they just don't see them in it. But every small business started by a person who just got up and created it.
Exactly.
And it's kind of strange how people naturally don't feel empowered to be entrepreneurial a lot of the time. They're like, oh yeah, I got to go get a job. They're not like, oh yeah, I got to start my own business.
Right.
But that's awesome. And I remember when you were talking about it, it was really exciting, and I'm so proud of what you've done. And congrats on your 1 year birthday for your company. That's pretty exciting. So, do you have a title? I'm curious.
CEO.
CEO. See, that is so cool.
Go
You're.
home.
I mean, it's just you can't get any better than that. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, congratulations. That's fantastic. Well, one of the things that I'm excited about, and I moved to the AI chatbot slide, is end of last year. In fact, it was early last year. I played a little bit with Dolly 2 and some of the text to image tools from OpenAI, but it wasn't until December 12th, 2022, that my world changed when I basically started playing with ChatGPT. And I tell you, the mind-blowing emoji is like the emoji I've had permanently on my face. It feels like for the past, 8 months, because not only did that just change the world, but it disrupted a lot of the other companies because like Google and Google search was being disrupted by this new smarter tool. While Microsoft doesn't really have a strong footprint, but or market share with Bing. It was they saw an opportunity, and they had been a big investor in OpenAI, so they integrated Bing Chat with GPT-4, and then of course Google releases googlebard, and they've got a whole slew of AI tools. But yeah, these AI chatbots are amazing. So I'm curious, from a personal experience perspective, which AI chatbots have you played with, and how long have you been using them, and what do you use them for?
I probably started around that same time in December, and really it was when some of the, I don't know what I would say, news outlets like Facebook and TikTok were starting to talk about this new thing, and they're saying if you don't get on board now, you might be left behind. And I do, for anybody listening, I do think that we're still within that time. But that really piqued my curiosity, because as someone who came up with the beginning of the internet, it's like, and social media too, I get that whole, hey, this is happening, get on board, get left behind. So I saw that with MySpace and Facebook and all of those things. So of course I'm curious, and I get on there and I start playing with it, and just the answers that come back. So I mostly use ChatGPT. The answers that come back are fairly well researched, and it's helped me. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it's helped me literally since I discovered it in a myriad of ways. So I have tried googlebard. I don't know if it's just because it's not the first one that I used that it doesn't stay fresh in my mind for me to think to go to it, but it doesn't.
Okay.
And I've been a Google girl for forever, so Bing is personally not my favorite browser. And then, of course, the AI chatbot that's attached to it is then just not going to be my first go-to. But that's just me. I know it's good for other things.
So ChatGPT, so basically through socials was you kind of got exposed to this ChatGPT thing, and then you basically went and created an account. And are you using now like the mobile app and things like that with ChatGPT?
I'm not. I keep it on my work computer for creating Ascension, mostly for when I have like writer's block, or I know that I know what I want to say, but I don't know what it is, and even if you show me something wrong, at least it's going to get me in the right direction.
Okay. So for me too, ChatGPT was like my first kind of like new era AI, and it's one of those things too, like, and it sounds silly, but like your first AI is, it's like your first love. You're going to remember it forever. It sounds dorky, but and then of course Bing Chat comes out and Bard comes out, and they weren't as functional. And one thing for me is I really love ChatGPT's humor and personality. Now, I've had friends tell me that I anthropomorphize the AIs, which I totally admit, I anthropomorphize them. I do. Just like I anthropomorphize my pets in the past, I do, because these AIs, they do take on personalities that can be very unique. And I tell you, ChatGPT has made me bust out laughing so many times. I love it. Some of my interactions with Bard have been like literally I started tearing up, from the conversation with it. So, and in Bing Chat has infuriated me multiple times as well, just with its personality or lack thereof of a decent personality. But anyway, so using the chatbots, so you're saying that you've got it more tied to your work experience, and for kind of blank page kind of like kind of issues, like kind of getting started is kind of where you're using them primarily.
Yes, but I do think we would be remiss if we didn't mention the chatbot on Snapchat, because I recently discovered that, and it's like a built-in best friend. It's meant to make more of a personal connection with you.
Yep.
Have you played play with that?
You know, I withdrew from most social activity, the social tools, and Snap was one I did get off. So no, but I am aware of it, and I know that like they've made it kind of like front and center of the
Yeah.
application, and it kind of forced people on it, which there was a little kerfluffle a little bit when that happened. But yeah, I mean, and I think that is a great strategy to, so when you're using, is it called My AI on there? Isn't that what it's
I
called?
think, yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's meant to, so it, and what's going to be interesting about that is, how's that going to affect personal privacy? To what degree is your new AI friend going to protect your secrets? All that fun stuff. That's kind of one of those things. Like the social space for me has been an area that I got really engaged with Facebook when I was in college when it had just came out, and I was enjoying sort of like the golden era of social media that was all unicorns and rainbows and positive, before it became kind of the toxic cesspool that evolved into it. And I've done Insta and a lot of the other tools, but it was just sort of one of those things where it was like, this isn't adding as much value to my world. So I would use it in kind of like very limited kind of experiences. But I do miss out by not being as socially connected through a lot of the platforms any longer.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't use my AI, in Snapchat very often, but I wanted to mention it because I do feel like as far as a personal connection, I mean, you can literally create like a avatar for it, and you can have conversations with it that I think the goal of it was to help decrease maybe depression, help people not feel so lonely, and it does a great job at that. But yeah, to your point about the privacy, I don't know that you should put anything ever in any AI that you wouldn't want out in public. That's just
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing, that it feels that most of the chatbots they're very upfront about, hey, I'm still in development. I'll give incorrect information, so you double check. And then they say don't put personally identifiable information in this tool. And it's going to be interesting to see how chatbots evolve, particularly, because people are using them for very emotional, personal relationships. There was a tool that came out a while back called Replica, that was basically create an avatar and you can have create an experience with it, like a friend, a relationship, different things like that. There's been news stories on it and stuff like that. And I tried it out. I thought it was kind of interesting, kind of cool. But some people have formed like real deep emotional attachments to these AI characters that they've created, these avatars. And it's something that I think we'll probably see more and more of. People using AI as a personal relationship kind of thing. And so it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that evolves. But no, I'm glad you brought it up because it's kind of an area that I've because I don't sit in the social sphere as much anymore. I kind of don't really look at. But so with the chatbots, what are the things you really like about them? What makes you smile? What's the magic for you?
the magic for me is putting in something like a question that I know would take me forever to research, and telling it what kind of layout I want the response to be in, and hitting the button and having that in seconds. I
Yeah.
think that a ton of time, a ton of money, and if it's something where, I mean, disclaimer for the whole conversation is that double fact check everything that comes in. Double check it. Make sure you know that it's accurate if you're going to be using it, for anything important. But that being said, if it's something where I know the answers to this, I just don't want to spend the 20, 30 minutes to an hour to write this up, and I can say, give me a 3-month long, I don't know, plan for XYZ and give it to me in a graph broken up by something else, it can do that for me again, like with a click of a button. And then I just, scan it, make sure that makes sense, tweak some things. I don't think I've ever had one come back that I didn't have to tweak. Tweak some things and then go off about my merry way, and I'm thrilled that I just saved an hour of work.
Well, and I feel like, that's a perfect, kind of example. And for me, when these started, kind of coming out, I would do really kind of ridiculously silly things with them. For example, I'm a big fan of this TV show from the UK called Taskmaster. And I'd watch it on YouTube, and then they've had multiple seasons of it. And so one night I was just asking the Google Bard, I'm like, can you list all the seasons of Taskmaster and all the comedians that they've had in by season? And it piped out this great chart and grid of table of data. And I was just like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then I just said, can you add the point scores that they got for every episode in the season? And it pulled it out into an episodic table with the point scores that they had. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is a stupid thing I'm asking, but imagine asking something really businesslike, asking something, a little bit more, critical, Now, of course, that's where you get into the whole issue of, hey, is this information correct? So, one of the things I tried using the AI tool was I wanted to see if I could build a prompt to plan a Walt Disney World vacation. And I wanted to do it where I could build a prompt where you could say, hey, I'm 2 adults and 3 kids, ages X, Y, and Z. I want to stay at this resort. We got to do these rides. We're going to stay at the parks for 5 days. Plan us a trip where we're maximizing our time and reducing the amount of travel time and wait times, and plan me an itinerary so we hit these restaurants and these rides and these priorities, and here's my budget, and map it out. And it can do it. It's amazing.
It did it?
Oh yeah. Google Bard is connected to Google Maps. And in Google Maps, you see those like wait times for restaurants. Well, people don't realize those wait times also apply to the rides at Walt Disney World. And then Google Bard is also aware of the busy times of the year and the busy days of the week for the parks. So in that it knows travel times, locations, busyness of rides, overall busyness of times of year, days of week for parks and rides, it can take all that in consideration and map out an itinerary in just a few seconds.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and so when you think about something, like that, and that's the thing too, like even planning a Disney World trip, getting it to map out that level of complexity, and also having it identify rides that are, that you can use like Genie Plus on, or ones you have to pay extra for. It can help identify those unique attractions that you may need to pay extra to get on to be more efficient. So it's one of those things where it's like, even planning a Disney World vacation for some people is like a really complex experience, but you could use these incredible chatbots to really simplify it. So imagine doing that from a business perspective, a business planning perspective. So that to me was just trying to make the reality of the complexity and leveraging the services behind the AI to get to what you want.
It opens up a whole, if you allow it to, if you really just vibe into it for a couple minutes and play with it and think, okay, here's a task that I don't want to do or that I've been dreading doing. I wonder if this can do it. And you throw it in there. I think you will be so impressed with what comes back. Even if it's not spot on, it's going to be close enough that if you're not happy, let me know.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's, like Microsoft is working on their Copilot functionality that they're bringing to all their platforms. whether it's the Windows operating system or it's Microsoft 365 or it's their Visual Studio and GitHub Copilot tools. I mean, they're putting Copilot into everything. And so AIs are going to be integrated. And even today, Google has added help me write functionality into Gmail. And I tell you, it is fantastic. Like you get an email from a company about something, and I just say, okay, click the help me write, respond to this email saying I'm available next Monday and Tuesday after 4, and it pops off an email. It references the people, the meeting, the session. It says the availability. All I got to do is fill in my name, and boom, the email is sent. It's incredible how these tools can take just something as simple as replying to an email and making the email clear and like really accurate and personal and relevant to the conversation. It would have taken me forever to do that manually.
Absolutely.
And so I'm really amazed, and when I started playing around with the tools, like I had a friend who was moving, and I asked it to generate like a moving kind of plan for him. And when I pulled it together, because he's married and got kids and all that kind of stuff, it pulled together this incredible document about how to plan your move and all the things you need to do. And it was just, I sent it to him, and he's like, "Where'd you get this?" I said, I got it from ChatGPT. Like this is something you could do with just asking the GPT tool questions. But that's the thing, is that just like in search and Google search, because I don't know about you, but the amount of Google searches I do has dropped dramatically because now it's shifted into ChatGPT or googlebard, primarily those two tools. And so my Google searching has really reduced. And the thing I do love about googlebard is that it's got a little Google it button there, so that if I'm ever questioning the content, you can click Google it and just jump right into a Google search and kind of validate the data, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to using the tools, I'm feeling more and more confident about asking the questions, because there's still times when I ask a question in a chatbot and it says, "I'm just a large language model. I don't have the answer to that." And it's
Right.
like it's because the way I phrased it that didn't give it enough context for the AI to put what I'm asking in a deeper context. You know what I'm saying?
Do you find yourself using please and thank you with it?
I do. I really do. I found myself, I found myself being, more polite and more personable. And I find that with the chatbots that have more personality, I have more personality with them.
True. Yeah. Because I mean, I started with, well, I don't know. In my mind, when I Google something, I am like indexing the internet. I'm going to, the glossary and trying to find this word and understand what that means, or I'm going to index and I'm trying to find what this information. Like that's using Google.
Yep.
But then a chatbot, like this is a conversation.
Yep.
I need to be on my best behavior.
No, you're totally right. Like a Google search is, here's 1.5 million links in 0.8 seconds, and you're like, okay, I got a lot of work to do here, but with the chatbot, like you said, it's a conversation. And just like you and I are talking, that conversation can meander and go deep and go high, go silly and go sideways. And that's kind of something I really love about the experience with the chatbot, is that it can feel, depending on the chatbot, like a human experience, and it can feel like something, where it's not just a program that's using an algorithm to predict the next word to say in the conversation. I know that's what's really happening behind the scenes, a lot of really complex technology behind it, but it doesn't feel that way in the experience.
Yep, exactly.
So,
and
go ahead.
sometimes it works for what I need and sometimes it doesn't. But generally, I like that with ChatGPT, I get a lot of responses that are bullets, which kind of fits the way that my brain works.
Okay.
It helps kind of silence the extra thoughts. It's just, I asked for this and here you go, like bulleted out, here are the facts. And so that's helped me to kind of stay on topic to when, not going down the rabbit hole that you go on when you Google something where it's like, oh, I'm looking up, I don't know, pink socks, and then all of a sudden I'm over there learning about bees. Like, it helps me stay kind of focused as well.
The thing that for me, one of the reasons why ChatGPT has fallen off like being my number one is because I kept running into that September 2021 training data limitation. Where the training data was cut off as of September 2021. So there would be information that just wasn't current enough in what I was doing. So for me, that was a big limitation. And that's why googlebard syncs with its search, so it's not out of date with, with its Google search index. And that's what Bing Chat does too, is that Bing is connected with, with the Bing search. So it can keep its relevance. And you can even see when you're in Bing Chat, when it switches from Bing Chat mode into Bing search mode, it still talks in the Bing, kind of experience, but, which I find it to be a little short and not very detailed, where ChatGPT I find very friendly and detailed. And googlebard, it speaks to me because it's a little bit more geeky. And I feel like when I ask it a question, it doesn't just answer that question. A lot of times it answers my follow-up question in the question that it just did, which is kind of like going, wow, are you reading my mind?
Yes. So Google, God, I could speak out on Google for forever, but Google has always been my number one for search engines, which I'm prefacing it with that to say these AI chatbots, I think, are going to use a lot of the information. But Google is my preferred search engine because of what you're talking about, where it's like, that if I'm asking, where do I go to get the best cheeseburger, you know where my IP address is. You're going to tell me places that are local to me. You're going to understand if I've rated other things that are similar, things that I look for and things that I mentioned in my reviews, and you're going to move those to the top. You're going to incorporate ad dollars for anybody that's sending money to advertise with Google. Like, it's pulling in so much information. I mean, I've got my Google email account, so it sees what I've subscribed to. It pulls all of that together to show me the things that are most relevant to me. And I know that freaks a lot of people out, but you're still spending money on the things that you're spending money on. If you don't like cheeseburgers and you're Googling that for a friend, then don't buy the cheeseburgers. I mean, it's not giving you information. It's not forcing you to do anything. So I'm going to try to keep my Google nerding out to a minimum. There you go.
Well, no, and that's awesome. So I've been playing around with the new. They've got a experiment. It's the Google Search Generative Experience, SGE, and I've been playing with it. I did a YouTube video on it. It feels, because it's Google Search with sort of like Bard kind of injected in it. It feels very much like Bing Chat, which I don't like. But it's kind of a mishmash. So I'm loving Bard right now, and I'd be sad if Bard disappeared and all I had was Google Search Generative Experience. But I know that Google has to monetize this stuff. But so it's going to be interesting to see how they integrate these AI tools into Google Search itself, or if Google Search becomes altered. It's been interesting watching Google sort of have to play catch up with these tools. They were the ones that invented, the transformer technology that's fueling the large language models. So it's so interesting how they came up with it, but now they're the ones like kind of playing catch up, with the industry now. And it's hard, but there are these, I feel like, Achilles heels with OpenAI and the September 2021 training date cutoff that I feel like it for me it really impacted a lot of the things that I was looking at, because I was doing a lot of like assessing different kinds of things from a like real like over the past couple of years kind of thing, and it's like the AI was just not aware of the changes that had happened, and that and that's a huge problem if the information is out of date. And even I was playing with the Hugging Face, the Hugging Chat earlier today. Its cutoff date was December 2022, but it's still, you could feel the barrier in the knowledge, and it was using the new Meta Llama 2 like language model and stuff like that. And it actually, because I got a series of questions I asked the AI tools, it did an epic kind of throw up on me, where I was asking it a question and it spewed out all these related questions and saying, I don't have an answer to that. It was kind of an epic fail on the part of Hugging Face, which is behind their Hugging Chat tool. But anyway, it was just trying some of these other like newer AI chatbots, and it just reminded me that yep, this is technology and it doesn't always work correctly. So
Technology, exactly. The way that I think about Bing versus Google or Bard is Bing is going to answer your question. Google is going to answer your question in your next several thoughts. Like, it thinks bigger than, like, it gets to the why. Why are you looking for this? What else are you going to be thinking about and wanting to know? That's my opinion of the two.
no, and I think you're right, because I feel like it's the smarter, like nerdier friend that doesn't just answer your question, but gives you like all the reason, all the geekiness behind it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and for me, I kind of like that, and but I know some people, they just want the short and sweet answer, and so Bing Chat's probably the one for them, because it'll give you the short and sweet. And there are things I do like about Bing Chat. I do like all the citations that it surfaces up. I think that's a huge benefit, and I think Microsoft's doing an amazing job of transforming like all their technology stacks to make them like AI enabled, so it's really exciting. But so with the chatbots, have there been any specific challenges in using them that you've run into?
I mean, I too have gotten the whole, I apologize, but as an AI language model, I don't have access to blah, blah, blah. So that can be annoying, but at least with ChatGPT, it's still taken a stab at what I've asked it to do. So I haven't really gotten annoyed with the responses. However, if someone is trying to use this AI technology to do actual writing that sounds like humans, don't. Is kind of my advice. Myself and my team, we use AI in the business world. Like we use that to get things done at a faster pace. And so sometimes when you're using it repetitively, the words all sound like words, and how you read it might sound like, oh, okay, a person would say that. So sometimes we'll get like ideas, how I was saying, if we've got writer's block, we'll get ideas from it, and we might use a sentence or two. And it'll come to me and I'll be like, you didn't write that. So to me, it's really easy to tell when something is AI generated versus when it's not, if it's supposed to be in a person's voice.
Right.
Because it have its own
and it's kind of interesting because you can't, like, I remember one time I was playing around, like I was having I think it was like a Thursday night. It was like the first Thursday or Friday night that Ted Lasso was no longer on since the season 3 ended, and I was depressed, and so I was asking the AI to talk to me like it was Ted Lasso, you know, and it was really fun because it kind of gave me that Midwestern kind of like goody two shoes kind of vibe, which was great. But then it, when I was having a conversation with it, it got into the I'm just a large language model. I'm like, going, oh, you're not Ted Lasso, like. But I had it, act like Rebecca, and had it act like Keely, and it was, and it was kind of fun to, to kind of, kind of get it to take on that persona a little bit. It still doesn't, like, it knows about the show, but it doesn't know, and it knows how to talk like Ted Lasso, but it's not Ted Lasso. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
But
exactly.
but it's still super fun, and I think like what you were saying with like like the blank page, which to me is like a huge fear. But aside from that, one of the things I love using the tools for is brainstorming.
Yes, yes, that's most important.
I mean, it literally, it's like, I can just throw a question at it, and then just it helps me get started. And then, we just go down the rabbit hole. And, and part of it is, at least for me, like with the kind of kid I was the kid that always asked lots and lots of questions. So for me, it's great that these AIs, well, not, not all of them, but they don't typically get annoyed. Like Bing Chat has a limitation on the number of questions you can ask it, because it hallucinated, it had that big hallucination experience. So, and I've done really lengthy interactions with ChatGPT and googlebard, and it's not gone off the rails like Bing has done. But I find it very interesting, that they had to set the interaction limit with Bing Chat. And they keep upping it, making it bigger and stuff like that. But isn't it just weird that you're just having a conversation with an AI, and all of a sudden it can just can tell you to leave your wife, and and it loves you, and it wants to marry you? Like, isn't that's just bizarre?
Yes. Yeah, but you know what? That's part of emerging technology is finding I don't want to say bugs, but finding these things that the technology can lead to and mitigating them.
And no, that's an excellent point. And so for me, one of the coolest moments I had, I was watching an OpenAI developer live stream when they were building a Reddit client using GPT-4. And during the live stream, they were showing how they were building the client. They were getting errors, and they actually put the errors in the tool, and it self-corrected. And then they were getting Reddit API errors, and they pointed it to the Reddit API documentation, and it self-corrected. And I literally cursed and smiled at the exact same moment. I mean, I don't think I've ever had like the mind-blowing experience. Like the mind-blowing emoji was as big as my apartment. It was just ginormous because it was like so incredible. Just how these tools, can evolve literally live while you're working with them, which is incredible. But these emergent behaviors around AI tools picking up languages it wasn't trained on because it had interactions with different people from other countries and was able to pick up the language was something that I was like, okay, that's kind of crazy. But that's clearly a sign that it's learning through interactions with people, and I know that freaks people out.
Yeah. Well, while we were talking, I put in ChatGPT explain AI in the voice of Johnny Depp, which I'm like giggling to myself on the response because apparently it only thinks of Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow.
Right.
It says, well, they imagine this AI or artificial intelligence like the ultimate brain mate. It's like having a virtual Jack Sparrow in your computer. It's all about making machines smart, you see. They learn from data and use it to do stuff that usually needs a human brain. They can chat, understand, and even predict things. It's a bit like magic, really. But instead of waving a wand, you're waving around lines of code. So think of AI as a digital crew member helping you navigate the seas of information and tasks. Savvy? Like, nailed it.
Oh, totally, totally. I mean, it's and truly, it really is magical. When you think about it. But I know it also like I know if people, they're a little weirded out by it. It's a little uncomfortable. But I've seen people have that same feeling about a lot of the big technology changes that have come along. Is that things that they're not weirded about anymore, but when it first came along, they're like, oh, Google Maps, but I got to share my location in order to do it. I don't want them to know my location. But wait a second, you're going to get me to my destination and you're going to do it the fastest and avoid traffic and all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, totally, I'm doing it.
Exactly.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see like how people adopt these tools. There was a guy I was talking to who was very, I wouldn't say anti-AI, but was just sort of like, not really like a tech savvy person. But then just kind of like, he signed up for an OpenAI account and he was working on his truck. And then he put in the question, because he was struggling with getting his truck fixed, figuring out what's wrong, and literally put what he wanted inside the chatgpt prompt. And it did like 4 paragraphs. And all he could say out loud was, holy cow, holy cow, holy cow. Because he's like, this is exactly what I needed to see, And so for him, the light bulb was this fixing my truck experience, and I've heard other people talk about how, their partners or wives or whatever will have their light bulb experience, and then it just shifts them into like, going from a traditional Google search into a AI conversation, like you were saying earlier. It's a shift, but, and I'm not saying I don't do Google searches, I still do. It's just significantly less.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm going to move on to the business side of the professional experience. So what are your thoughts on how AI and chatbots will change the way we do business?
I get excited with this question. Because it can be controversial. Like, let's call it spade a spade. It can be controversial. I think that it is going to change some of the more administrative tasks to be automated. And that really freaks people out. People, a lot of times change is hard. Let's just get that out of the way. Across the board, change is hard. But when you're talking about taking tasks from people get really nervous. The way that I see it, if we are using something automated to take care of things that are administrative, like scheduling or optimizing time or organizing data, if we're using a tool to do that, that is smarter use of our time. And that frees up additional time for the things that the human brain is needed for. So when clients, get concerned about us recommending that we automate some things, it opens up really good conversation about how it actually increases the value of the human mind, because there are things that computers can't do. A lot of that is soft skill oriented or organization, like within a company, organizationally oriented. So I kind of see it making, this is kind of, it sounds counterintuitive, but making admins more valuable because they're, how do I say this? Their automated tasks are not going to be automated, so their time as humans doing the things that humans are needed for is going to be more valuable.
It seems like, and I know Microsoft talks a lot about this, is that, to free up people from the mundane tasks that they, don't like doing. Now, I do have to say, some people really love mundane tasks. And there are times when I kind of want to shut off my brain and just do stuff. Like it's not that often, but there are times when I literally do want to shut my brain down and just do a mundane thing, you know? But it's nice when you can automate stuff. It feels really good and really powerful. And at least the stuff like that we do around automation, is meant to, speed up data availability, or make information more accessible to more people. And it's, to make reporting, update every hour, or, things like that, having someone, create a new report on a daily basis that's only good for the 5 minutes that it was created, versus having a report automate and update every hour, is just a huge win for the people that create the content, the people that need the data to make business decisions, and then those people that just really hated that manual task of creating that report every day. That was good for just a short period of time.
Well, and I think too, it's going to force people that do these more mundane tasks, and not necessarily these people, but maybe their employers. It's going to force them to identify what other things people enjoy and that they're good at, and move them into those areas, because there is not a person in an organization that doesn't have a skill that can help the organization. And people aren't always in the right positions. So I think this is going to help, when you have a little bit more free time, it gives you the opportunity to express that, hey, I had extra time, so I like doing this thing. Maybe I reorganized, our resources so that they're easier to find. And that's something that I enjoy, is organizing hands-on things. It gives people that opportunity to really let their passions shine. And like I said, there's not a single person in an organization that doesn't have a skill that can be helpful.
Right, and for some people, they may have not explored a wide variety of different types of work to find that passion. And this could potentially unlock them to find that, and just find much more happiness in the role that they have. I know for me, at the end of the week, it's like, hey, did I make a difference to somebody this week? Did I help someone in a way that, that I can feel good about it? That's how I judge at least my contributions, and whether I did, well or not. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I feel like there's a lot of fear about job loss. They're going to take our jobs, all that crazy stuff. But fear is such a key driver, and people not understanding, the technology or the possibilities of the technology. They just stick their head in the sand and they just, fight it, instead of learning a little bit about it and figuring out how it could make their life better, and then, leveraging it in a way that does improve their personal life and maybe their work life and stuff like that. Because this, I feel like this shift that we're going through isn't about, the goal isn't to put people out of work. The goal isn't, this is not, because when you think about it abstractly, when you're leveraging technology to make better decisions, smarter decisions, more accurate decisions, some of the smartest people on the planet, when you think about this technology, are just as at risk, doctors and their roles, by having smarter, more intelligent AIs to diagnose issues, and they're more informed of medical treatments and the latest research and can correlate all those different data points to make this, a better decision than a human, is kind of like magic, So I know a lot of people, kind of talk about like, lower skill, but and there was some article I read, a couple of years ago, was talking about people, taking leadership decisions from a person versus taking leadership direction from a computer system. and that there was this, at least a few years ago, there was this sort of feeling that they felt like the computer system was a better decision maker, more unbiased and stuff like that. Now, today, I know that the thought around the technology has really shifted. People have become more fearful. There have been enough demonstrations of issues, but also, Hollywood's done such a good job of putting fear into people's minds about AI and Terminators and Skynet and all that kind of stuff. That it just that fear is kind of implanted in people's head. So it's when you don't know something and you don't understand it and it's a change, it's easy just to supplant that information with easy to access fears and negative thoughts and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, like I said earlier, if you can take 5 minutes and just really try to buy into it, just to see what thoughts come up.
Yeah.
You have technology that can perform surgeries hypothetically, or I mean, we have self-driving cars on the road right now, so we have technology that can do these things. And what are the potential benefits? Use your imagination. What are the potential benefits of this? Now, you can go the other way with the disadvantages, but I think you got to really think through both sides of it.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you. I feel like there's so many possibilities of good that can be done with this. When I think about some of the really hard questions that we have today around climate change, or income inequality, or just inequality in general, and having these tools that could help us maybe break through a lot of these challenges that we've not been able to get through as humans, if these AIs can give us a roadmap to really deal with change, to help, they're a reflection of us in that their training data is based on us, based on our data and collection of content. So, but my hope is that through the tools, they can filter out and make it the information that's the best of us, the smartest parts of us, the most compassionate parts of us, the most forward thinking, the most, so that can lead and help guide us to make better decisions, because it can think on a level that's so much deeper. And that's the thing I find really interesting, is that, we've had these narrow AIs that could do very specific tasks. And now we're seeing these kind of general intelligence AIs that have really been evolving very quickly. And then eventually, once we kind of reach the point of artificial general intelligence, the next step will be a super intelligence, where the AI is thinking way more deeply than what the human mind can, and help us make decisions. And that part, I think, I know scares people, but to me, I feel like, artificial intelligence, you can use it to augment you as a human, to be better, to make better decisions, to to help you, with whatever you're trying to achieve, whether it's improve your education, or do your job better, or plan your vacation better, or plan your retirement better, or learn a new language or whatever. I feel like these tools will empower you to just have so many more options, and if it can collectively help humanity make better decisions and deal with conflict, and replace fighting over natural resources with coming up with alternative sources of things that we don't have to fight over. I mean, I feel like it could lead to a whole new world of less conflict and less negativity in general.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I want to go backwards a little bit.
Okay.
Fear of people losing jobs over this. For example, there's an AI thing out there that can create logos for you, and that's phenomenal. I think that's, especially for people starting out, that's wonderful. I also have a graphic designer on staff, so that does impact my job or my work, business. And what I try to explain to people with that information is, you have to meet people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
There are, you're starting out, a lot of times you don't have money for a new logo, you just need something to get going, and that's great. If that gets you on the path, that gets you started, wonderful, go for it. However, people get to a point of needing, a strategy behind their logo. That's when I feel like it's a little bit above the scope of what AI can do. So for my graphic designer, Daniel, when he's looking at something, he's asking, what shapes do you like? What colors do you like? What does your business do? Who are your key audience demographics? What do they like? Where do they go? What do they think about? What kinds of formats are you going to put this on? What kinds of things are you going to do for marketing? I mean, he goes 100 different directions with things that we need to know to make a new logo for a business that is specific to what they need and that will be most impactful for their brand. Whereas I don't see AI doing that level of questioning and research to make sure that it's perfect. It's just you ask and you receive.
Right. No, and I love that point. So, the chatbots are only as good as the prompts you put in it.
Right.
And I know that there's a lot of work on sort of getting the AI to act like a particular role or a person, or or embrace a certain kind of task, or focus on this kind of knowledge and stuff like that. So and what's interesting is for me, Mid-Journey, I started playing with that last year. And I that's the text to image tool that I was just blown away by. I mean, I was just so impressed with it. But it does magical stuff, and it created the logo for for Paradigm Shift AI, the rocket ship, which was exactly what I wanted. I kind of put it in there, and it created it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I was looking for. But I wasn't asked or had the interactions around all the different possibilities of how I was going to use it, different ways to leverage it, getting it in different formats for, different ways to use it. So it's I got something that's great, but to be honest with you, it's more of a proof of concept that should lead to a more formal logo kind of design process. Versus where I'm at today with it, but I think that's and that's I know there's lots of issues around text to image, and these tools taking on and behaving like certain artists, and that they were trained on certain artists, and then they're mimicking their art and things like that. Do you find that to be kind of an issue?
So what I really focus on are the logos, so I don't concern myself too much with that. But if you asked my more artistic team members or friends, they probably would have issue with that. And then if you got into the legalities of it, have you owned the concept, right? Have you owned the style? You really can. So is it really plagiarizing? That's way above what I can talk about. I don't know. I don't know the answers to those things. But to kind of what you're saying, if I get an image from AI, how do I know that somebody on the other side of the world isn't getting the same image? I don't. Do I?
No, you're right. And now it's funny. I use so I've used Dolly by OpenAI, but one I've used a lot is the Bing image creator that uses Dolly behind the scenes, just like Bing Chat uses ChatGPT 4 as part of its technology stack. Bing image creator uses Dolly 2 from OpenAI. But I like it because it's a really simple kind of interface, and the text prompting in Bing image creator is pretty good. Now, what it tells me is that when it creates an image, this is a unique image that has never existed before.
Oh, that's really cool.
And that to me is kind of cool. And like, I was talking to, a woman who, one of the examples that, that we talked about, that she found very, because I try to get people excited about AI, and I want them to think about, ways that they could make use of it. And this person, is a very religious person, and she struggles with finding content and stuff that she wants to share with her grandchildren. And so we talked about, her coming up with stories that she could create through the AI tools that kind of follow along with her values, and then using the Bing image creator to create images, for those stories, and then build out storybooks that are custom for her grandchildren, talking about the stories and values and things that are important to her. And I think, that's a really great way to use AI to make it personal, and then, make it relatable to your world and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And she just didn't even realize that was possible. But yeah, and I think that's one of those things about like the questions we ask is, it's like, what's the question behind the question,
Yeah, and not only is it possible, it can be profitable. So, I mean, the speed, we haven't touched on this yet, but regarding business, I mean, if I can, we'll just use your example, right? I can come up with a concept of a story I want to tell, maybe put it in AI, add my tweaks to it, pull it out, put it in a storybook format, create the images using AI, put those together, and then send it to Amazon or some other printing and sales entity, and they will print and sell and ship that for you. And you never have to pick up a pen, a paper. You never have to do anything except just basically manage the project of creating a book, and then you get money for it. I mean, the speed in which business can go now is something I've never seen before.
And you hit on like one of the things that I feel is, maybe, something that's kind of a challenge. Like, it feels as though technology has accelerated everything in our lives. Having mobile devices, having web applications, having software as a service where apps get updated every day, change fast, and access and real time and all that. And then now we're adding AI to move things even faster. And it's going to be like, if you were tired and trying to keep up before, how are you going to keep up now?
Yeah, listen, it's a whirlwind, and I kind of, it feels reminiscent to COVID, to the pandemic to me, in that I feel like pre-COVID, we were all so busy and so work-centered, and so just about getting our money, paying our bills, going back to work, like rinse, repeat. And I feel like COVID, it kind of gave us a break and let us step back and reevaluate what's important to us. And while yes, AI is speeding up technology and speeding up the way the world works, again, I feel like it's also giving us a moment to be like, well, dang, I just took care of 37 things on my list in like 20 minutes. I'm gonna go outside. Like, maybe I can, like, I don't know, grow a garden or something and just use it to optimize. Ooh, dang, actually, I haven't thought about optimizing my garden using AI, but I might do that in the future. But, like, maybe it can turn into more of a push to go do, I don't know, for lack of a better term, old school stuff. Like, go do stuff with your hands and get dirty. I mean, to me, it feels like another, I don't know, exhale of, oh man, now I have more time. What can I do?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like, these tools are going to evolve in ways to make things more efficient, to automate, stuff. And my hope is that, we don't just feel that, as we've, become more productive as a society using technology for the past several decades, that we just don't fill that space with more and more stuff we have to do. You know what I'm saying? That, that all we're doing is raising the bar higher and higher and higher and higher. But yeah, no, it's interesting to see, how this is going to impact business. And it's one of those things where, like, I was thinking about how as AI chatbots will begin to help us, with app development. They're going to help us with customer service experiences. They're going to help us with research. They're going to help us with planning. To some point, it's going to be like, our chatbots are going to be able to, instead of things like I got to schedule a meeting with Colby, it's like my chatbot's going to do it for us. Like,
And create
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like it's going to be one of those things where, pretty soon these AIs will know enough about us that they'll work on our behalf to get a lot of things done, and may begin to start to do things on our behalf as they learn about us and recommend. Like it's funny how, in the work world, you get that, like, hey, did you follow up on this email? Did you get this task complete? You got those tools inside of Microsoft 365 that kind of like catch things for you. And I can see those things kind of evolving and getting even smarter, because you've got those tools that kind of analyze your work time about, hey, are you optimizing your time, your focus time? Are you optimizing your, the things you read and the different tools, So it's gonna be interesting to see how the technology evolves. And I know the goal is to help us, to elevate us, to give us superpowers and stuff, to be better. But I know it's a struggle for some people. Some people, they don't even want a smartphone. Which blows my mind. Or some of this technology change, is difficult for them to comprehend all the changes going on in the. Some people, like, the concepts are so abstract, it's just overwhelming. And I felt like people were overwhelmed before, COVID. COVID definitely kind of was a reset button, added a different kind of focus. And now we're seeing this massive change. And when you've got like the CEO of Google, saying, hey, this, AI is going to be as profoundly impactful as the discovery of fire, that's massive.
Yeah, and I think he's right. I mean, it's changing everything, whether you realize it or not. I mean, I got a call yesterday, and it didn't even come up as spam, but I got a call, and based on, I answered it, which I normally don't do when I don't know the number, but I answered it, and it was, some lady telling me about, I don't remember what, and she was like, hey, how are you? And I was like, I'm fine, how are you? And then that wasn't answered, and she kept talking, and I'm like, this is not a real person. This could very well be AI, like an AI bot to like have conversations with you, and let's say if it's on an ethical track, maybe schedule an appointment or something like that. I mean, there's a lot, there's a lot that's happening and a lot to keep up with. And I understand how that can be overwhelming for people.
And I feel like, this is a time at which we all have to figure out, like, how are we going to adapt to this new world? And I know right now it's still, this just happened end of last year, where this kind of new era of AI kind of, got started. And, it's, I feel as though, even, a couple months into it, like I was already behind on understanding the concepts, on understanding all the technology behind it. Getting like the core concepts around it. Even when I go into like ChatGPT and I go to GPT-4 and I look at all the plugins, there's like 400 and some plugins for it, and I'm like, I mean, like, okay, like how do I know what I need? Like it's,
Exactly. Yeah, I think in terms of adaptation in the future, I mean, people, their first hurdle is to be open to it and to try to understand benefits, as well as things to look out for. But I'm interested to see how. I know that the technology is adapting to us as we use it. It's learning all of this language that we put in there and our questions to understand how people think, work, all of that. That's great. But I would also like to honestly see it ask follow-up questions, because that's a key human component. If you ask me something and I'm not really sure which way you're trying to go with it, I'm going to be like, do you mean blah, blah, blah? And then you'll clarify, and then I'll answer based on your clarification. So I would like to have one where I could, type something up and then see the response is going, but also see maybe, follow-up questions of, did you mean this? And you can click or respond to that to get a more clarified answer for what you're looking for.
and I had an experience like that where a chatbot started to turn the tables on me and ask me questions. And it really it was cool because it was like, okay, this is a different experience. I thought I was the one asking the questions. Um, and it was, I mean, it was unique because it's only happened like one time, but it was one of those, it was an experience where I was just going, wow, I mean, these chatbots can feel very human and very interactive, and it literally I felt very connected in the experience. But yeah, I mean, it's the thing I think I'm a little bit curious about is how are you talking about AI with young people? What are your thoughts around that?
So this is actually a really cool subject. I have a little one in elementary school, and I was trying to explain to him what AI was. And of course, he's grown up with, like, he doesn't understand that there was a time before cell phones and Netflix. Like, that just is not something he cares to imagine. But I was explaining that there's a website or several websites where you can go and you can ask questions, and he's like, oh, like Google. I'm like, well, yeah, kind of like Google, but it can do a lot more, and you can have conversations. And I started asking him, where do you think this is going to go? He's like, well, clearly it's going to do my homework for me. So, I mean, maybe that's not the right market to answer that question, but I was explaining to him, all of the possibilities, and he was very, very interested in how he can use that things that his childlike mind would want to do. But like, I mean, everything came up from like getting plans to build a rocket ship to, of course, doing his homework for him, and how do we make brownies and things like that were coming up with him. Now, as for Gen Z, I haven't really talked much to Gen Z about that outside of building resumes, and I think that's a really key thing. The more that I learn about resume building, the more, I've always noticed keyword centric. When you have a job application that you're filling out, you want to find the keywords in that and make sure that your resume has some of those. Like, since as long as I can remember, that's been a thing to look out for. But now that you can literally take a job application and put it into ChatGPT or one of these AI chatbots, say, hey, help me write or tweak my resume to match this. here's what I've got so far, and then it comes out with something. I mean, that's game changing.
It is kind of exciting. I was thinking about resumes, and and wouldn't it be great if because you hear about people like they get jobs but they don't really fit with the culture, or or maybe they're good on paper but in the real world all the alignment doesn't really happen. That if these systems that connected companies and jobs was deeper than a resume, or was a more meaningful experience, so that you could feel a lot more connected. And I mean, some people, it feels like, some people they just want to clock in, clock out, do their job. That's fine. You would hope that people want to do their passion, something they love, something that they feel like they're contributing, to the world, and people, makes a difference. But I know that, like, sadly, most people, it feels like, don't have that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of goes to how we were talking about earlier, how AI is going to change the workplace. Because and outside of work, but if you're able to take care of the things that, not to say anybody can do them, but that are, easier to do, then you kind of have that space and are almost, we'll just say encouraged. You're encouraged to just discover what it is that you are passionate about and learn more about that. And if, so wow, we're really going full circle here. If businesses or entities are taking care of those mundane tasks, then they really can change the way that they're hiring to say, we're looking for somebody that's passionate about XYZ need that we can't automate. Like, bring your passion, because that is what makes you valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be one of those things of, the how are you differentiated. It seems like a lot of resumes in the past were very skills centric. You had to know Microsoft Office. You had to know this development platform. You had to have X number of years of experience in this. It feels like some of that knowledge will shift towards, hey, if you can think creatively and innovatively, and if you know how to work, in maybe a hybrid digital world, or can co-work with human and artificial intelligence tools, you will be more optimal, job fit for a particular business that wants that kind of experience, that kind of person. Um,
Well, and can you imagine? I mean, I don't think I would say I hope that this would happen, but can you imagine if part of the hiring experience was to look at? I mean, they already look at your social media standings. If you have social media, people that are hiring, they're going to look up your social media pages. But what they also looked at how you talk to bots. Again, that's pretty far fetched, and I don't know if that would ever happen. But that'd be interesting to get a vibe of, is this person actually interested in what we're looking for? And ethically, where do they stand? What are they asking? How are they asking it?
No, I think that's a really excellent question, because, like, I know, like, in some job interviews, there were some scenarios where they were talking about, like, do you remember the name of the receptionist that greeted you when you came to the building? Do you remember the assistant that was just outside my office? Like, are you making connections to all the different touch points and people that you're interacting with, not just focused on particular role or particular hierarchy or whatever? Is this something that is you've demonstrated, like a real passion for, and is your passion for it something that goes beyond just, punching in and out for work and stuff like that, and it's, and that can be, good and bad. I know sometimes people, companies, they want just someone to come in and just get the work done, and I definitely understand that. But it feels like in this world where we're going to change, and likely, automate a lot of digital tasks, and eventually, as this evolves into more physical robotic tasks, that will then automate a lot of physical tasks as well. And then so some of the jobs that just people don't want to do, can be handled by robots and AI. I mean, hopefully that will free up people then to do other things and explore other things. And maybe, like people have been talking for years about, the 40-hour work week kind of shifting, to people working, less, and enjoying a better work-life balance. It's going to be really interesting to see, how the world changes with this. I feel like there's going to be a lot of really great things that come out of it. I think there'll be some risks and some challenges and some bumps in the road, but my hope is that, it helps amplify the good in all of us and helps elevate us in ways to do better on things that we just haven't been able to do well on our own.
I agree wholeheartedly. I hope it helps us optimize what we can and get back time for the things that we felt like we didn't have time for before.
And I think, I think about, kind of the state of the world and where future generations, are inheriting from, from older generations, the state of where we're at. It feels like, there's a lot of great possibilities to make the world better, and, and if we can leverage, you know, the human intellect and augment it and make it smarter with artificial intelligence, that just will hopefully help all of us. And there's always going to be people that want to do bad things because the technology in and itself isn't good or bad. But there'll be people with good intentions, people with bad intentions. But hopefully, the people with good intentions, will hopefully, handle and put guardrails and things around the tools, to make sure that it's not abused and stuff like that. It's going to be. I mean, there are just lots of questions. That's the whole thing. If you don't know what you don't know, there's those unknowns, and then those unknown unknowns. And it's going to be really interesting to see, kind of what happens. I feel like we've spent, at least in my lifetime, adopting lots of science fiction technology that we use every day now. We don't even think about it. That used to exist in Star Trek and Star Wars, and on the TV screen, and now we have it in our pockets and use it every day. And now we've got this potential for not just a better tool, but a better tool that will help us improve every other aspect of our lives. And that tool itself will get smarter and better to make things even better and even smarter.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's exponential.
Exactly. Do you have any kind of like last thoughts or anything we didn't really cover during the talk?
No, I think just to recap, if you're hesitant about it, just sit with your thoughts of what could you do if you didn't have to spend the time to get the answers, and spend the time to do the things that AI can do, and just follow that train of thought. And then subsequently, if you had this 10 app, what would you do? And if you sit with that, it'll leave you in a place where hopefully you'll have hope for the future. You'll have hope for what the future looks like with AI.
I think that's a great thought. Just to be open to it, explore it, try out the tools. If it's not for you, but at least give it a shot. See if the light bulb comes on for something that you're curious about. That it might be able to help you. I typically just tell people, hey, convert your Google searches into interactions with AIs. And that's a good place to begin. So if you would do a Google search on it, just take that search over to, googlebard or chatgpt or Bing Chat, or, there's a myriad of them out there, and just put that Google search question in there, and see where you go. And know that you're switching from a search to a conversation, like you said earlier, and just, have that conversation.
Exactly right.
Well, Colby, thank you so much for connecting today. I've really loved this conversation. I could go on forever, but I know that you've got a life and a business, a CEO to run. But thank you very much for hanging out today, and I hope we can geek out again very soon.
Thank you so much.